How's it going, guys? I hope you guys having a great week. So Christmas is nearly here, guys. It's only a few weeks away, and like me, I'm sure many of you are hard at work looking to buy presents for your friends and family and closest loved ones, and are wondering, what should I buy this year for them? Well, these videos are designed to actually give you a little bit of advice on some of the best games to buy this holiday season, and which games are definitely worth you spending your money, and which games would make absolutely fantastic gifts this Christmas. So this video first is going to start off by talking about the 5 best exclusives to buy on the PlayStation 4 this Christmas. So without further ado, let's get started. So these are not in any particular number order. These are just 5 of the best games for me. So it doesn't mean that number 1 is the best and number 5 is the worst. It's not that way at all. But let's crack on anyway, and hope you guys find this video useful, informative, and just interesting to watch. So the first game I absolutely think should be on your Christmas list this year on the PlayStation 4 is Persona 5. So Persona 5 is a fantastic game. It's developed by P Studio. It actually came out back in 2016, and it's a role-playing social simulation. It's a fabulous role-playing game, and the basic premises of it is it takes place in modern-day Tokyo, and it actually follows the main protagonist, a guy called Joker, following his transfer to Shujin Academy. He and some other students that he meets at the academy basically awaken these secret powers within them, and they form a group of vigilantes, which known as the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, and they kind of try and defend the innocent, right wrongs, and they basically explore this supernatural metaverse where they take on shadows, and they can call out special persona. It's hard to explain what this game is, but it's a fabulous game. If you are a fan of role-playing games, it's a brilliant game to jump on, and it's made up of a great cast of characters. The story is fantastic. Of course, the combat is great. It is sort of turn-based combat, and that's wonderful, but what's really special about this game is just how much you can actually do in it. Even when you're within school, you interact with different characters. They all have their own backstory and their own sort of motivations. You can do things like playing baseball, taking classes, developing your character, learning new things. There is so much scope in this game, and it is a massive game. One of the biggest appeals of this game is just the visual design of it. It's got a really cool visual aesthetic, really cool art direction. The music is fabulous as well, and it's a massive game. It offers huge value for money. You can probably beat the game in about 100 hours, probably a little bit more depending on how much you put into it, but it's a fantastic game. If you're wondering about age rating in terms of buying it for someone, it is aged 16, following Europe's sort of PEGI age rating, and following America's ESRB is actually aimed at T14. So just to give you a little bit of information there if you're thinking about buying it for someone. But Persona 5 it's just a fantastic role-playing game. It's really well worth picking up, and I hugely enjoyed it playing it back in 2016. It was one of my best games of that year, without a doubt. The next game that is definitely worth a pickup this holiday season is SpiderMan on the PlayStation 4. This came out back in 2018. It is developed by Insomniac Games. Of course, it's an action-adventure superhero game where you get to play as Peter Parker's Spider-Man. It's fabulous. This probably for me is the best Spider-Man that's ever come out. It's an absolutely brilliant Spider-Man game. For me, Spider-Man 2 was always my favorite, simply because of the web swinging mechanics, but this game is just like a whole other level. It is absolutely incredible. It's set in an entirely sort of new storyline. So it introduces a completely new storyline. It's not connected to the movies whatsoever, and it introduces a brand new villain, which is refreshing to see. A villain by the name of Mr. Negative. You of course play as Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but it has many other well-known characters and familiar faces. So of course MJ is in there, Miles Morales is in there, Dr. Otto Octavius is in there, and we kind of get to see his fall from grace, and it's fabulous. It's just a brilliant game. The story's great, really enjoyable cast of characters. The music is great, good, but what's fabulous about this game is the gameplay. The gameplay loop is so good in Spider-Man. The New York City, the recreation of New York City is absolutely amazing. It's a completely open world area, so you can explore throughout it. It's chock full of things to do, and side quests and side activities and collectibles, as well as main story beats. But what is the best in this game is the traversal across the city. So the web swinging mechanic is fantastic. It's so fluid, from the wall running, that it's just amazing. You actually, and it's going to sound so corny to say this, but you really do feel like Spider-Man when you're playing this game, and they've captured that feeling so well. And then that combined with a fantastic combat system, great sort of combat abilities and throwing combos together, your spider sense obviously to dodge attacks and moves, combine that with the gadgets and the array of gadgets and gizmos at your disposal, and you've got a really good solid game, and it's fabulous. It's basically like, you know, the equivalent quality as, say, the Batman Arkham games. So whereas the Batman Arkham games definitely make you feel like Batman, and they're amazing, Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 is, I would say, the equivalent level of quality. It is definitely well worth a pickup. As well as the main sort of game, there is also 3 downloadable DLC packs as well, and content, and they actually add to the story as well, and introduce some other villains and other characters, and Black Cat, who's one of my favourite villains, and kind of fallen heroes, I guess, or I don't maybe call her a full villain. She's like the Catwoman of the Spider-Man Spider-Man franchise, but it's fabulous. It's a great game, and it offers a lot of value for money. I think you can beat the game in maybe 45 hours, so it does offer a lot of content. In terms of age rating, in Europe with PEGI, it's rated at age 16, and in America through the ESRB, it's rated at T14. But Spider-Man, if you are a superhero fan, if you are a fan of the Batman Arkham franchise, or you know someone that really likes those games, and they don't own Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4, then absolutely you should pick this game up for them, because it's a fantastic game to actually play, and I really enjoyed it. Spider-Man's one of my favorite superheroes in the Marvel franchise, so fabulous game. The third game that would be a good pickup this holiday season as well, exclusive on the PlayStation 4, is Uncharted 4. This came out back in 2016. Now, Uncharted 4 for me is a fabulous game. It's you know, Naughty Dog are a studio that always deliver great quality games in terms of story, characters, visual animations, gameplay, and Uncharted 4 for me just ticked all the boxes. Of course, it concludes Nathan Drake's story, and it does it in such a satisfying way. If you haven't played the previous Nathan Drake games, you know, 1 through to 3, then what I would say, it's well worth picking up the Nathan Drake collection, which is probably quite cheap now. Play that first, and then definitely buy and play Uncharted 4. Obviously Nathan Drake is back, and it's got a returning cast of very loved characters as well. It's got a great storyline. We actually get to see a little bit of Nathan Drake's sort of childhood, and his relationship with his brother, which is really fantastic, and it concludes his story and his storyline in just such a satisfying way. It's a beautiful looking game as well. It's visually stunning. The different locations that you can explore are fantastic. It actually introduces some new open world mechanics when you get to one particular area, and a drivable jeep and different things, and it expands on the game that they've done before, and it just builds upon what was already a great foundation, and it's such a polished, perfectly finished game, and it's wonderful. It's got fantastic set pieces and action, combat, great, of course, parkour elements and traversal. It's a wonderful game. Great combat, great parkour, really likable cast of characters, fantastic voice acting, really good soundtrack, really good musical soundtrack, visually stunning, great story, and yeah, and you can beat it probably in about 18 to 20 hours, so you're getting a pretty nice chunk of gameplay there. In terms of age rating, it's age 16 in Europe through PEGI, and in America it's rated T for teen under the ESRB, but it's fabulous. Uncharted 4 was probably one of my Game of the Years in 2016. I'm really surprised it didn't win Game of the Year. I think it had a lot of steep competition that year, but Uncharted 4 was just such a wonderful experience. If you've never played the Uncharted series, think Indiana Jones in video game form. So it's got a lot of history, it's got a lot of puzzle solving elements to it, uncovering kind of the secrets of sort of, you know, mythology and history and things like that, but it's also got great sort of combat, gunplay, action set pieces. It's just a roller coaster ride from start to finish, and yeah, it's one of the best games on the PlayStation 4 without a doubt, and it's one of their best exclusive franchises as well, and I'm kind of looking forward to see where they actually go with the Uncharted series in the future. So Uncharted 4, definitely a must buy on the PlayStation 4. The next game I would definitely pick as a must buy on the PS4 is Horizon Zero Dawn. This came out in 2017. It's developed by Guerrilla Games, but what's really interesting with it was that it's actually Guerrilla Games' first original IP since the Killzone franchise. So this is a studio that went from making first player shooter games to making a third person action adventure with some sort of RPG elements. There are dialogue options and dialogue trees, and there are some definite RPG elements, but it's fabulous. It's a fabulous action RPG game. It's got a really interesting setting and world. You basically play as Aloy, one of my favorite game characters of this generation, and she's a hunter set in a post-apocalyptic world which is overrun by these machines, and they're kind of like these machine creatures and sort of dinosaurs. And what's great is that, you know, the world very much feels alive, and of course you can hunt down these creatures, and they've all got different kind of strengths and weaknesses, and you can scan them for that and attack certain areas of them. But then these creatures have their own ecosystem, and they also hunt each other and interact with each other. So not only are the machines really interesting, but then you've got a really interesting story that goes throughout this game, which is about Aloy's past and her history and where she comes from, and also uncovering what happened to this world. You know, how did this world become the way it is? Where did these machines come from? What happened to the human race? And, you know, this old tech, you know, what happened with it? And it's just an incredible game. It's such an incredible world. It's full of a great cast of characters. Even the NPC characters in this game are really interesting. NPC being obviously non-playable characters. Great story. Visually, it's stunning. It's a beautiful looking game. It's the first game that Guerrilla Games used their new Decima engine for, which is the engine that Hideo Kojima used for Death Stranding, and it's a beautiful looking game, and the engine really does work incredibly well with this game, and it's just stunning. I love the choice as well to use sort of the bow and arrow for combat, and you know, it's just great, and the different gadgets that you can use, and it's a really good game. And then on top of that, we also had a massive DLC expansion called the Frozen Wilds, which takes you into a completely new area, continues on the story, and then introduced new machines as well to take on. Fabulous game. You can actually beat it, including the DLC, probably in about 60 hours, so it does offer a lot of value for money. And in terms of age rating, of course, in Europe, you know, through PEGI, it's aged 16, and in America with the ESRB it's rated T for teen. But if you own a PlayStation 4 and you haven't bought Horizon Zero Dawn, or if you are buying a game this year, Horizon Zero Dawn would be a great purchase for a friend or family. And yeah, it's a fabulous game. It really is. And finally, the last exclusive game that you absolutely must buy for the PlayStation 4 if you don't own it, or you know someone doesn't own it this holiday season, is without a doubt God of War. This came out last year in 2018. Of course, it's by Santa Monica Studios, and this game is the pinnacle of what the PlayStation 4 can do. It's a fabulous game. It actually won Game of the Year last year at the Game Awards, and it was a well-deserved winner. Of course, it's an action-adventure game. It's actually the 10th game in the God of War franchise, but in terms of the story, like, there are some references to things that happened in the previous games, but you don't really need to play them in order to experience and enjoy this game. It actually is great because it reinvents the God of War franchise. God of War franchise has always been known to, you know, have great sort of combat, amazing boss fights. It's known to be sort of, you know, really gruesome and really sort of visceral combat, and, you know, really destroying Kratos' enemies. And Kratos has always been this kind of really violent character in video games, and I loved the God of War franchise because they always delved into Greek mythology, and I love Greek mythology. But it's interesting, the new God of War, because it takes Kratos in a new kind of direction. This is an older Kratos, and we actually get to see him as a father, and we get to see that sort of relationship between him and his son Atreus, which at the beginning of the game is very sort of very cold, very distant, and very awkward. And as you play through the game and you go on this journey with them, you get to see that relationship, you know, develop, and it's great to see, you know, a Kratos that's kind of in conflict with himself. He still has that violent inner rage, but he tries to control that, while also trying to sort of either keep his past secret or reveal it to his son, and obviously what he's done in the past and all the terrible things that he's done. And it's about accepting who you are and where you came from. And it's actually a really a story that has a lot of heart and a lot of depth to it. And yeah, the voice acting and the acting and the facial animation, it's just fabulous. It's a great game. It's really interesting as well because it's set in an entirely new location. It actually explores Norse mythology, which is really interesting. It's an interesting way to take that franchise, and I'm looking forward to what they do with that and how they progress with it. But then combined with a great story, brilliant soundtrack, epic soundtrack, and visual design, you then have some of the best combat in any game this generation, period. The combat in God of War is fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. It's so fluid, it's so visceral, it's so intuitive. You obviously have your axe, which you can throw a little bit like you know, Thor's hammer. You can recall it back to you. You get some other weapons as you progress through the game. You also have a shield as well as sort of, you know, hand-to-hand combat, and you can switch between these different styles so fluidly and easily. There's such a wide variety of enemies to take on as well that really do offer, you know, a lot of challenge, particularly if you get overwhelmed. And then also you have Atreus, who is there as like a support character, and you can actually give him instructions, and he's really useful. And they did a really good job with him and how he sort of works with Kratos. But the gameplay is where this is at. It's such a blast to play. If you're a fan of the God of War franchise and you haven't bought this game, I don't know why. You should be buying this game. It's a fantastic game, and it will definitely be a very good present to give someone this holiday season. It's wonderful. It's the full package. It is the full package. You can beat the game in about 30 to 40 hours through doing the main campaign and some of the side content. And in terms of age rating, of course, this is Kratos. It's God of War, so it has a more adult age rating. So in Europe, through Peggy, it is rated aged 18, so please don't buy this for young children. It's not suitable. And also in America, through the ESRB, it's got a rating of M for mature. So please respect those age ratings there. But God of War, fabulous game. So definitely worth picking up this holiday season if you don't already own it or you know someone that doesn't have it. So there you have it. Those are the 5 best exclusives to buy on the PlayStation 4 this holiday season. Hope you guys found this video interesting, informative, and you just generally enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, of course, please show your support by hitting the like button. Please comment below to let me know what your thoughts are on these games, what your thoughts are on the video, and if there are any games that you would put in a top 5 list or a 5 best exclusives list on the PlayStation 4. What 5 games would those be that you would recommend people to buy this holiday season? Please subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more and if you enjoy the content. Of course, if you're subscribed, please remember to hit that bell notification button to make sure that you get updates on future content as and when I upload them, because we all know that YouTube are pretty crap in terms of their algorithms, and it really does help me a lot if you do hit that bell. Anyway, hope you guys are having a great week. Hope you guys have a great run up to Christmas as well. Take care, of course, and as always, happy gaming. Bye guys. Merry Christmas, guys.